Hello, hello, lovelies. I hope you all are having an amazing day. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Lauren, and I am back after a little bit of a hiatus to talk about some more horror slash thriller type things. I know it has been quite a little while since I posted my last video, and just to keep it real with you guys, life has been really busy. I just started a new job. My sister just had a baby. Lots of really fun things are going on right now. And so I just decided to kind of take a little step back. Not to mention, I wanted to post a video probably like 3 weeks ago or something like that, and I recorded 2 hours worth of content, and because of a lot of technical issues, I ended up having to delete all 2 hours of that content. And so that was a lot. So especially after that, I needed just a little bit of a break because I was really disappointed because it was a really fun video and I was really excited to share it with you guys, but it just did not work out. Anyways, all of that being said, I have really missed posting videos. I have had so many things on like my Netflix list and everything like that that I've been wanting to watch. A lot of horror movies and shows and thrillers and fun things going on. And so I have really wanted to make another video. So genuinely, I am super excited to be back, and I have a really fun movie to talk about with you guys today. As you can tell by the title, today we are going to be talking about the new anthology film by Netflix called The House. Now, for this video, there are going to be a lot of spoilers. I'm going to be talking about kind of the basic premise behind each section of the movie. So if you don't want to see that, maybe you can go watch the movie and come back and watch this video, or you can just watch the spoilers. I mean, it won't necessarily take away from the movie, I don't think, so that's entirely up to you. But you cannot say that I didn't give you a spoiler warning. So this is your spoiler warning. This video is going to contain a lot of spoilers. Anyway, this movie is kind of a weird one, and I have a lot of thoughts, so let's just get right into it. So this movie is actually really interesting. Like I said, it's an anthology film, so it actually tells 3 different stories across 3 different periods of time, and it kind of centers around this one house. And right off the bat, I have to say that I was a little bit thrown off because I honestly was not even going to talk about this movie on my channel because I didn't really think that it necessarily fit with the kind of movies and shows that I talk about. It was very heavily advertised as a dark comedy, at least from what I saw. And just my personal opinion, it did not really read as a dark comedy to me when I was watching it. Now, if you saw the movie and you really thought that it was a dark comedy, it fit really well within that genre, you are super welcome to disagree with me. But just for me personally, I didn't really see most of it as a dark comedy. I guess the second section, which we'll get into, is probably the closest to a dark comedy in my opinion, but especially the first and the third section did not really seem that way to me. And so the whole movie, just from the get-go, really threw me off because it was not at all what I was expecting. This movie is extremely unsettling. It's kind of mysterious. There's a lot of like twists and turns that you're not really expecting. I would almost kind of label it as a thriller, just kind of along those lines. But if I'm being totally honest, I have never seen a movie like this before. And the really cool thing is, genuinely, I think this is a movie that you could watch over and over and over again, and you could still find something new to see every single time. This is a stop motion animation film, which I'm a huge fan of stop motion animation. So I thought the entire movie was really beautiful. Some of the characters, especially in the first section, they're human and they have these like very beady little eyes and like bigger features, and those characters are a little more unsettling to look at, but even with that, I think the movie is just so beautiful. The voice cast was phenomenal in this movie. I mean, the only name I had already heard before was Helena Bonham Carter, as I'm sure most people know. I know a lot of people in this movie are bigger names and are in a lot of especially like British TV shows and movies. I just personally have never heard of them before, and so I will definitely be looking out for them in the future. But just overall, this movie was really well done as far as casting. So, getting into the basic premise behind the movie, like I said, this is an anthology series, so it's broken up into 3 different parts. And so the first part is titled, "And Heard Within, a Lie is Spun." And so this first section tells the story of a small family, the father Raymond, the mother Penny, their daughters Mabel and newborn Isabel. And the family is not super well off, and so they have a visit from some of their really rich relatives, which kind of sends Raymond into this drunk spiral after they leave. He ends up getting really drunk and leaves the house in the middle of the night, and he runs into an architect named Mr. Van Schoenbeek. I think I'm saying that right. And this architect offers to build the family a new home at no cost. But there's a little bit of a loophole. The only thing is that the family has to live in this new home and they can never go back to their old house. And so the family moves into the new house, and the parents quickly become kind of fixated on all of the material things that are in the home. And meanwhile, Mabel is left to kind of take care of her younger sister. Now, throughout this story, after they move in, the house just keeps continually changing. There are constantly workers coming to work on the house, and Mabel is kind of thrown off because the workers seem to be acting very, very strange, and her parents are slowly changing as well. Then one night, Mabel and Isabel are exploring the house, and they become just completely lost. And in trying to find their way back into the main part of the house and back to their parents, they run into Mr. Van Schoenbeek's assistant or employee, Mr. Thomas, who has been kind of facilitating them moving into the house. And he admits to them that this whole time he has been an actor and he's been following a script. So after finding this out and being very terrified, as any of us would be, the girls finally make it back to the main part of the house and they find their parents. But their parents have turned into furniture in the house. They're right next to this fireplace in the room, and the fire just starts to completely burn out of control and the entire room catches on fire. And so Raymond and Penny push their kids to escape while they're stuck because they become pieces of furniture. So the girls do end up escaping, but they're kind of left out in the cold and the snow while the house just burns down with their parents left inside. And so that gives us the beginning of this house. A very, very weird house, weird concept, and an extremely creepy, eerie ending. Now, I think that all three of these stories have a lot of meaning behind them, and I've read a lot of articles discussing what the endings mean and everything like that, but I do have a lot of thoughts on kind of the ultimate message behind each of the stories and then the whole movie as a whole. But I will start. I think the first part, the biggest takeaway from the story is really, really clear in my opinion, and that's that it's trying to highlight that chasing after material objects and wealth can kind of come at the expense of what's really important, connection and love. They also make a really clear distinction between, what a house is and what a home is. Because obviously at the beginning of the story, they have this really nice home that is full of light and love and the family is happy. And then as soon as they start chasing this dream house that's full of nice things, they kind of lose that sense of family and relationship and connection. Unfortunately, the parents kind of learn this lesson too late, and they end up leaving the girls alone, which on one hand can leave you feeling kind of sad because it seems like, there's kind of no hope for them. They're left by themselves. But there is also a little bit of hope there, because if they are able to survive, they can learn from their parents' mistakes. And I think overall, it just really makes you question whether you're really appreciating the relationships and the joys that you have in your life. So moving on, we have part 2, which is by far the creepiest. And like I said, is probably the closest to a dark comedy in my opinion. And that is Then Lost is Truth That Can't Be Won. So this part of the movie obviously takes place within the same house, but this time the house is set in a city in a world of anthropomorphic rats. That is a really hard word to say, anthropomorphic. So this part centers around a developer who is working on the house in order to sell it. And he has kind of put all of his finances and his future into this house. He unfortunately figures out that the house is infested with fur beetles, and he is kind of attempting to get rid of them, but nothing is really working. Regardless of this, he still decides to show the house, right? And unfortunately, most of the guests seem really unimpressed with the house, except for these 2 guests, that are saying that they're really interested in the house, and they ask if they can stay the night. And because he really wants to make this sale, he ends up letting them stay. He decides to let them stay for a few days, but then he kind of starts to realize that they are probably not going to buy the house, and they're also probably not going to leave. And they end up inviting a lot of their family, and that kind of sets him off. And he starts threatening this couple with boric acid. He accidentally inhales some while he's threatening them, and he ends up kind of passing out, and they have to take him to the hospital. And then the couple ends up, after he's better, taking him back to the house where them and their family are staying. And this whole part ends with kind of the whole family crawling through the house, eating through all of the furniture and all of the food. And then you see the developer crawl out of a hole in the wall in the oven, and he has basically regressed back to an animal-like intelligence. So yeah, this part ends very dismally. Not to mention, if you've already watched it or you do end up watching it, there is just so much disgustingness with all of the bugs, and the family kind of, I guess, is a family of fur beetles. It's kind of insinuated they're like giant fur beetles, at least they kind of look that way. And the whole thing is just very creepy. But I would say that the biggest kind of takeaway from this particular section of the movie is that you can't really just cover up your problems or ignore them, especially things like mental health, which the developer is obviously struggling with. He has a lot of anxiety and things like that. You can't just ignore those problems, because they are going to come back, and they are going to come back worse than before. Throughout the story, the developer continuously calls this person and calls them darling, and later you find out that it's actually his dentist. And so you can tell that he struggles with a lot of anxiety and is not getting real help for it. On top of the fact that he may even be like slightly delusional. I read one article where they were suggesting that the ending is not even real. Like, this family is made up because he's trying to, perceive his problems. He's trying to make up this family to blame his problems on, even though it's actually him ignoring all of these signs that he needs help. And so by the end, he ends up completely losing his sense of self. Then we come to the final part of the movie, which is called Listen Again and Seek the Sun. This was my favorite part, probably because it was the only one with a happy ending. But this part, of course, again, takes place in the same house, but this time it is in a world of anthropomorphic cats. And the other thing is that there seems to be this kind of apocalyptic flood that has taken over the world. And the house, which has now been turned into an apartment complex, is completely surrounded by water, which is slowly rising throughout the entire story. So we have a landlord whose name is Rosa, and she lives with her two tenants, Elias and Jen, who do not pay her money at all. And this is extremely frustrating for Rosa, because her dream is to kind of reinvent this house, refurbish it, and bring it back to its former glory. Because at the end of the day, she wants to find more tenants and make memories in her house like she had when she was growing up. So Jen's spirit partner, as she calls him, Cosmos, ends up coming to visit. And he offers to help Rosa because he has some skills in carpentry, I guess. But he ends up making a huge mess of things, and Rosa ends up really not liking him because he decides to rip up the floorboards and he builds a boat for Elias to sail away on. And so after Elias leaves, Jen and Cosmos decide that they're going to leave as well, and they really want Rosa to go. So Jen puts Rosa into this kind of trance, and in this kind of trance dreamlike state, Rosa sees the house completely destroyed and all of her friends leaving her. And so once she comes out of this trance, she sees that everyone is leaving and she wants to go with them. And like I said, this by far has the happiest ending, because Cosmos actually kind of fixed up the house so that Rosa could be able to sail away on it, and she ends up following her friends. And I think that this is really such an appropriate ending, because a lot of the first two sections kind of centered around material items and holding on to things rather than, building connections with people. And in this, Rosa is finally able to let go of that materialistic mindset and, follow connections and love instead. I mean, she literally, uproots the whole house and herself in order to move forward. And I also feel like this just kind of brings the whole thing full circle, because in the beginning, Mabel's parents were not able to escape and survive because of their connection to material items, while Rosa was able to escape because she decided to give those things up. Overall, I definitely would say, like I said before, this movie was not at all what I was expecting, but it ended up being a movie that I really, really enjoyed. And I think in all of its creepiness, it has a really great message that I think everyone, really needs to hear, because centering all of your dreams and your aspirations on material items and wealth and luxury is ultimately never going to make you happy. Focusing on your relationships and your connection with the people around you is what's ultimately going to bring you true happiness. And I think this anthology has a really interesting way of showing that message, because it is so creepy, but overall that message is still there throughout the entire thing. And of course, like I said, the whole movie itself is just beautiful. So if you haven't already seen it, I definitely recommend that you do. I'm sorry I've spoiled so much of it for you, but I promise you will still enjoy it and it will still be a good time. But anyway, that is all I have for you guys today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are a fan of horror/thriller content, that is really all I do. So definitely hit that subscribe button. Since I posted my last video, I have seen that I've gotten, a handful of new followers. So welcome to you guys. It really does brighten my day to see the follows and the likes and get comments and things like that. It just, like I said, connection and relationships is what life is about, and I really enjoy the community that we are kind of building here. I think we have a lot of really good discussions. I've had some great discussions with you guys in the comment sections of some other videos, and you guys make really great suggestions for things for me to look at. So I definitely want to keep that going. And if you would like to follow my Instagram, most of it's kind of personal stuff. I do post video updates. That is going to be in the description below. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your week. Be safe, wear a mask, and watch a horror movie this week, because you deserve a little bit of a thrill. I will see you guys soon. Bye!